And we are live. What's up, guys? Welcome to Fresh Air Podcast. We're here with Viva Frei, man. We got a lot to talk about. Let's get into it.
Let's go.
We're back. What's up, guys? Welcome to Fresh Air Podcast, regular edition. It's Money Monday. We're here with Viva Frei, man. I'm excited for this interview. We're going to be breaking down a couple of things, some current events, some past events, but we got some stuff to talk about. But before we get into it, guys, CastleClub.tv, as you guys know, that is where we post all of our content now. Mo did a fantastic job, and he organized all of the videos on CastleClub into playlists, whether it's After Hours, Frank Castle's, guest interviews, etc. A lot of the interviews that we had to take down off of YouTube, guys, because as you guys know, we had to take down a bunch of videos.
Yes.
Right? Those are all going to go on CastleClub. Mo's going to retroactively repost a lot of them on there. Some of them aren't even on Rumble. So we are going to have our entire backlog of content on CastleClub.tv. You can still find a lot of it on Rumble and on YouTube, guys, but as you guys know, we had to take down a bunch of videos to try to get remonetized. We'll see what the hell happens. If we get remonetized, awesome. If we don't, it is what it is. But, you know, you got to try, right?
You're going to see a lot of them under legacy content. You're going to see special events like the live event that we did at the venue or the overnight streams. We have the fresh match playlist, Money Mondays, gaming streams, even Fed Reacts. We have a bunch of these playlists. You're going to see it organized, and it's going to be easy to find for you guys.
Yeah, and we'll actually, what we'll do is in the middle of the broadcast here, we'll pull it up and kind of show you guys what it looks like, how we organize it for y'all. But CastleClub is going to have everything there, guys.
I think the best ones are the most random ones, though. We're just like traveling, having fun with the guys. Those are the most fun.
Yeah, so we will go ahead and have that ready for y'all. But what I was saying was also rumble.com/freshfit, guys. That is the home base, man. Also, Viva Frei is also on Rumble, so make sure to check them out on there. But that's the home base for us, guys. You know, some haters out there trying to say, oh, you fell off, blah, blah, blah. No, it's that we don't necessarily prioritize YouTube as much as we used to, guys, because unfortunately, they can demonetize you and cancel you at any time, guys. So you got to go ahead and set up a structure somewhere else where, you know, freedom of speech is allowed and you're not necessarily censored. And it is what it is. Obviously, it's their house, it's their rules, so we got to play by those rules. But if we want to give you guys certain types of content, we have to put it on certain types of platforms that allow it. So we can't keep all of our stuff up on YouTube the way we want, unfortunately. So, but it's going to be, a majority of it's still going to be on Rumble. Don't worry, absolutely free. And then a lot of the other stuff we're going to post on CastleClub for y'all. And then what else? Yacht Party. We're going to push it. Guys, we just got told today that we got a Rumble event on June 28th.
It's Power Slap.
It's Power Slap.
Yeah.
So we're going to be out there in Vegas. We'll probably collab with Michael Sartain and Rolo and everything else like that. But you guys know that we pretty much always go to these events, show support for Rumble. So we're going to be there on the 28th. And then we're going to do the Yacht Party either on the 12th or the 13th. We're pushing it back.
Yeah.
So all the people that have bought tickets, they've been notified. We're good to go. But we're going to be selling the VIP tickets still. So you guys get a little bit more time. It's going to be at the price point of $35.
Yeah.
Right? For the VIPs. We got just a limited amount of spots. Remember, guys, there's 120 tickets total, but around half or more are going to go to girls. So we only have a limited amount of spots for guys that are VIPs.
Like 3/4 going to girls.
Oh, three. Oh,
and
shit.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, we're trying to make it exclusive, guys.
It's crazy.
You know, we don't want it where it's like, I understand that the price point's a bit high, and that's fine. We're gonna do free meetups and everything else like that. But this one is a party networking event. We're gonna have other creators there. It's gonna be a very It's gonna be a higher class thing, man. It's gonna be a nice yacht, you know, 100-foot plus with a bunch of chicks on there. It's gonna be classy, right? We're trying to make it exclusive, and that's what it is. Obviously, you have to do that with certain price points. If you can't afford it, that's totally fine. We'll have other events that will be cheaper, and we'll have other meetups that are gonna be absolutely free. But this one is gonna be more of a not just going to be a party, but it's going to be a networking event. You're going to be able to meet certain people, high net worth individuals that are going to be there because if they can afford that, clearly they got their money together. So yeah, and we're going to be streaming it as well. So you'll be able to come on the yacht, collab with us, get your stuff shouted out, which that might be in itself worth it. So like I said before, that's how we're going to do it. Link is pinned in the comments on CastleClub. We only have it open up for CastleClub members right now at this moment. It's not open up to the general public.
I think the biggest thing is being in the right room at the right time, and that's the right time to be in the room because we're going to be with a lot of creators in there as well as millionaires, so it's going to be really good.
Yeah, man. So we're trying to keep it exclusive, guys. That's why the price point is where it's at, right? So, like I said before, for now, we're selling the VIP tickets and we're focusing on that. Once we sell that out, then we'll talk about the other stuff.
And we're almost there.
Then we're almost there.
Shout out to all the supporters supporting us
Shout
as
out to
well.
all y'all ninjas, man. Haters want to go ahead and pocket watch us and everything else
It's
like that
cool.
because they can't necessarily, provide that kind of value. So they're over here saying it's all a scam or whatever, but haters are going to hate, right? If I was just making reaction videos all day, I'd be mad too because I don't teach my people anything besides
And
talking shit.
People forget we sold out all our yacht parties so far.
Yeah.
So it's cool, bro.
So,
they can hate.
Yeah, man.
It's fine.
Haters going to hate. We have real conversations here, not just gossip, provide value. But anyway, without further ado, we got a special guest in the house.
Yes,
I say, I hear things.
No, don't worry.
Before when I was coming down here, I like to Google who I'm going to do an interview with and scandal or controversy, and that was one of them that came up. The
Of course.
35 people was $3,500, not $35.
Yeah.
And people were saying I don't know who I was listening to, but that was one scandal. There were a few, but at least
there's always scandals
controversy.
with us. Yeah, where our Castle Club, our locals is 35, and people complain about that because we do Zoom calls also. And we do a lot of coaching on there behind the scenes. Obviously, and then we're also doing like meetups and everything else like that. So it's not just like a typical locals membership where we're just posting content. We're also trying to create a community on there.
Brotherhood, basically.
Yeah.
Well,
so.
I heard somewhere on the internet that there was going to be a Rolex that was being offered at the
Oh
birthday
yes,
party.
yeah. We're having a Rolex raffle. Yeah.
So you're just gambling for a Rolex.
Yeah.
What is the market value of the Rolex, if I may
Between
ask?
7 to 10K
Yeah.
or higher.
How
Yeah.
much?
7 to 10K.
Okay.
Yeah.
For a watch
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a date just.
that you put on your hand.
Yes.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's like a small car on your hand.
Yeah. It's a nice one. So yeah, we're gonna raffle that off. We're gonna have a bunch of girls there. We're gonna have bring some games out, open bar, free food. So and then to rent a yacht out isn't cheap, man. So it's like it's gonna be something a bit higher class. So, but people are always gonna complain and find something, and we have lower tier stuff. Like people can obviously participate in that, but it's always interesting how people have something to say about how you run your business or how
for sure.
you.
And if the price point is too low, it sells out too quickly. People complain it's sold out too quickly. Have more tickets. Candace Owens, when she joined Minect, and she had a very expensive per minute.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
Okay, you don't get access to people for free, nor do you get to fault them for pricing it at what people are willing to pay, nor do you get to fault people for spending the money the way they want to spend it. You wouldn't find me on that yacht because nothing good happens after midnight. And I got my dogs to take care of, but it sounds like it's going to be a party.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be a
And
good
people
time.
forget, all of our parties have been a success. The YouTube party for 1 million, our last party as well for the after event. I mean, it's fun, man. So
yeah, so it is what it is,
enjoy
man.
but we know who you are.
Yeah, but
They
for the
may
people
not.
that might not know, can you introduce yourself to the people, please?
Yeah, if everyone knows that I probably suffer from undiagnosed ADHD, and being here is like being in a Vegas casino with there's like cameras, there's televisions everywhere. It's wild, and I can see the chat as we're doing this. Viva Frei. So my real name is David Freiheit. Freiheit means freedom in German, or Germanic languages, Yiddish. It means freedom verbatim. Born and raised Montreal, Canadian Canuck. English but speak French. Youngest of 5 kids. Dad's a lawyer. 4 of the 5 kids are lawyers. We all still speak despite not necessarily sharing the same politics. I think I would say the liberals are outnumbered 3-2 by the conservatives or ultra
Okay.
MAGA.
All right.
But we love each other. We get along. We have a good family, but we don't see eye to eye on politics. And you just don't talk about it at Christmas. Ended up in Florida because the world went batshit crazy with COVID. And I realized that Canada, not sure if it's a sinking ship that can't be, salvaged or can't be righted, but I think the battle to fight right now is more effectively waged in the beautiful free state of Florida than the censored country of Canada, where it will be soon outright illegal. I'll be put in jail for some of the tweets that I put out in Canada if I stay there forever, and it wasn't a life for raising a family anymore either.
I met a YouTuber from Canada. I forgot his name, man. He's a fitness guy. Went into fitness. His girlfriend too as well. And he got banned for saying somebody was fat.
Well,
I was like, in Canada, that's crazy.
No. Well, I mean, banned from YouTube or banned?
YouTube.
Yeah. Well, there's words that you can't say on YouTube that don't just relate to race, religion, or politics, but body stuff.
Yeah.
The A word, which I had no idea you cannot mention on YouTube. But it's nuts. We've entered a realm of reality where certain types of discussions, however offensive they are promoted, and others, however realistic they are demoted.
Let me ask you this. So a lot of creators believe in free speech, and I believe too as well. However, I think the current society doesn't really want to push that anyway. What do you think about free speech?
Well, people are a bunch of sissies. I mean, it's not like I haven't read the book, The Coddling of the American Mind, but I think I understand what it's about. People have not been brought up to just deal with words the way you should deal with them. I like. We were talking beforehand. It's like there's a certain debate that I don't like getting into just because it never goes anywhere productive. But I don't believe in shouting people down who want to criticize the state of Israel. I don't believe in not boycotting, in illegalizing boycotting of Israel. I do what you want to do, say what you want to say, so long as it doesn't materialize into action. But if it materializes into action, it's not the words that are the problem anymore. It's the action. And I listen to people. People call me all sorts of names, and I don't give a sweet bugger all so long as it ends with the words. But if it goes beyond words, it's not the words that are the problem. It's the actions. And I know people are very sensitive to words lead to action in real-time violence, yada, yada. You got to censor the internet. Horse crap. A ton of discrimination, violence. I mean, it all happened prior to the internet. So clearly, free speech on the internet is not the issue. And it's not even clear that free speech is the issue. I believe genuinely it's suppressing the free speech that exacerbates all the problems, as opposed to letting people say stupid, offensive things. And if they're stupid and offensive, they will be outed and countered. And if they're not stupid and offensive, if they offend you, you might have to deal with it nonetheless.
Yeah, no, good point. So you're on YouTube, but you're also on Rumble, and you make content where you react to things from Can you give people your professional background real fast?
I look like a nutcase now, but I didn't always look like this. If you Google me in September 2021, I ran for office in Canada, the People's Party of Canada. I've been a lawyer until I voluntarily relinquished my license because I live in Florida and didn't want to pay $3,000 a year so that random idiots on the internet can file ethics complaints against me because they don't like my tweets.
Yeah.
We'll get there. I was a commercial litigator. I started working at one of the biggest law firms in Canada. I don't know if they want me to say it, but it's Borden Ladner Gervais, BLG. Biggest in terms of number of lawyers. I did my stage there. I was a young lawyer there. I was on what they would refer to as partnership track in the long run because I came from a good pedigree, as one of the lawyers once told me when I said I'm leaving. And my dad's a lawyer. He was a partner at a place called Stikeman Elliott, one of Canada's best law firms. I was there for about 5 years, including internship, and I had my first kid. And I said, I hate everything about this life. I get to the office before my kid's awake. I get home when she's asleep. And I don't know if it was a mental breakdown, but one Friday afternoon, after my wife said, you know what you have to do, and I quit. And then I was ready to go back to commercial photography because I've always been into videography, camera stuff. Applied at a place called Dawson College. Before I could get rejected, I was put on the waiting list. I'm like a 35-year-old man with a kid, and they're saying, you really want to go back to commercial photography? You have a law degree and you've been practicing. I started getting calls and started my own law practice in the basement of my parents' house at the time. Or I might have been, I forget where I was living, but that was the address at one point. And then I just rented a small office, built up a small practice for myself in a 700 square foot place into a good boutique Freiheit Legal. But I never loved it, and I never liked one day more than the day before. And I said, if I'm doing this when I'm 50, I'll probably be dead of a heart attack and unhappy. And so 2016, give or take, I had discovered YouTube, made a few viral videos. Like, oh, you can make a few $100 a month, $1,000 a month. I could figure out how to do this. I started winding down the litigation practice and focusing on YouTube. But it wasn't law-themed at all. It was like Casey Neistat-esque. And then
so vlogs.
Yeah, vlogs. And I was doing fishing, cooking, whatever, random stuff.
Yeah.
And then every now and again I would do a day in the life of a lawyer, prepping for a witness, prepping for a trial. And everyone's like, oh, that's interesting. Do more of that. So I do more of that. It would get consistent traffic, but 10, 15,000 compared to hit or miss with random stuff. And then one day, 2018, give or take, I did a breakdown of the Al3x Jones deposition. Remember that clip? I was going through a form of psychosis back then. That was the only clip the media played. Yeah. And it was about the Sandy Hook defamation or intentional infliction of emotional distress. And I was like, oh, they're only playing that 3-second clip. I go look it up. The deposition was 3.5 hours. And so I listened to this whole thing for 3.5 hours, time stamping where I think the lawyer asking the questions made mistakes. And then I did a breakdown analysis on the roof of my house at the time, wearing sunglasses, cringe as hell. And that video sort of went quasi-viral. It got 250,000 views on YouTube, which is kind of interesting for a legal analysis. Yeah. So I was like, oh, this is what I can do. This is my ikigai, what the world needs, what I'm good at, what I can get paid for, and what's the fourth one?
Provide some value and give people the truth.
That's like an overlapping force. What you're good at, what the world needs, what you can get paid for. Oh, and there's another one, doesn't matter. And where it overlaps is your ikigai. I was like, I can do this. This is I have a legal mind. I have 10 plus years of training. And so I said, okay, I'm going to dedicate it to this, niche down on that. Then YouTube took down that video, gave me a strike for violation of terms of service for hate speech. And then I realized, what the hell is going on? Like, I didn't even play any portions of the deposition where Alex Jones said anything bad.
Just so I get this straight, they took down your video and gave you a strike for hate speech for giving legal background on a deposition that is public record in a court proceeding in a civil case.
Absolutely, and
Crazy.
It wasn't even like it was in the context of a case where there might have been hate speech,
Yeah,
like
it
a hate
wasn't,
crime
yeah.
or racial slurs. It was Alex Jones talking about his reporting on Sandy Hook.
Yeah.
And so that got taken off of YouTube, and I made a big stink about it because I'm a nice guy and I don't engage in hate speech.
Yeah.
Although some people might think I engage in hate speech by saying there are only two sexes and, things are mental illnesses to be treated and not encouraged, but we'll get there probably at some point. I was like, I'm not putting up with this. This is bullshit. And I'm not, when people go to the video, because they had the link, it said remove for terms of service, and I think it said hate speech. And that irked me. And so I appealed it and I made a stink about it. Nothing happened. And they said, too bad. Live with it.
Wow.
And then about I think it was 2 weeks or a month later, it just randomly reappears on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
And so then I really
So you lost the appeal, then it came back.
Yeah, but it came back without me even asking for it. But I took a victory lap because it was evidence that I didn't engage in hate speech. But what I realized is it was all just algorithmic, what they didn't want at any given point in time. Tinker with it, add words, that videos get flagged, and then they can change the rules later on.
Yeah. Or worse yet, they can change the rules and then retroactively punish you.
That's the biggest problem.
They did that to Tim Pool recently. They actually took down Alex Jones' video of his when he had Rogan on. And they were like in the RV or something like that talking. And they took that video down 3 years after the fact.
And also, he asked them, is it okay to put it up? And they said yes back then.
Well,
then they said recently, it's not okay. Take it down.
No, and I've had a long-lasting theory about this. Someone is suing YouTube out of Quebec for... it's a class action for COVID censorship. And I had her on. She's amazing. They're suing on behalf of creators who were censored and content consumers who were censored as well. On the basis that, I forget the... I'll get it in a second.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. There was a time where if you talked about the pandemic or anything else like that, they would immediately flag the video. You'd have a Wikipedia thing underneath your video. It would get suppressed, and you can get a strike for COVID misinformation. A lot of people got strikes and got their channels removed because of that. Now, if you talk about it, you don't get strikes.
Well, not just that. People were getting strikes and getting penalized for stuff which it has now been proven to be true, contrary to what it was flagged for as misinformation at the time.
Yeah.
But I've always long believed that other than the argument of unjust enrichment, where YouTube says, come to the platform, you're going to bring traffic here, we're going to use you for as much as we can, then we're going to kick you off once we've gotten the traffic, the eyeballs that you brought. I think that's a case of unjust enrichment. The only issue is the contractual link, because you're not a consumer, you're a merchant, not a consumer. Like you're using YouTube as a business. The unjust enrichment presumes sort of an absence of a contract and an absence of the enrichment for the company. But false or deceitful business practices, where they say your video's good, we've monetized it, you've approved it, and we've given you the go-ahead, and then later on we say, no, we're demonetizing it.
Yeah.
And I say that's a deceitful business practice, because you've made money off of me, and then you penalize my ability to continue making money and risk my entire business after you guys have made your buck. And I say, I don't know why in, say, for example, California, where they have these good, it's not so much consumer protection laws, but rather business practice laws, no one has gone with that angle. But no, they're terrible. They know it. It's what it is about. I don't even think it's about money anymore. It's about narrative control and politics.
Yeah.
Even if it means losing money, because but for what YouTube has done, Rumble wouldn't necessarily be what it is today. It's like they've created the Rumble monster by virtue of their own wrongdoings.
Yeah, I mean, and then the terms and service are extremely vague and nebulous. Like you don't even really know, because it's like it can. The thing is that it's written a certain way so that it can be enforced at any time or not be enforced at any time.
That's called it's lawlessness. It's what it is. It's communism. Like okay, when Fox News, MSNBC talks about Jeffrey Epstein, well, they're news outlets, so they get to monetize. I talk about it, gets demonetized.
Yeah,
it's like they're making me work for them for free.
Yeah,
they turned me into an indentured servant, but they're opaque by design. It's the feature, not the bug. And they use it to go after the disfavored channels. Alex Jones, and I mean, I've been, touch wood, I don't really care about YouTube. I haven't had problems with YouTube. I have my fights and I make stinks about them because I think they need to be brought to the forefront. But I'm in good standing. I had like a medical misinformation flag from an interview I did with Dr. Francis Christian, a doctor who's talking about the jab, and they flagged that. An unlicensed YouTube some dude in whatever country says that's medical misinformation, what Dr. Francis Christian said. And
Crazy.
you do your YouTube re-education camp, and they remove the strike now, which is a good innovation, one that we've built.
So you got a
into-
warning that time.
No, it was actually they took the video down. They say this is it's a warning because it wasn't the first strike.
Yeah.
Do the re-education camp and show us that you understand the rules.
That's one good thing they did.
Well,
is,
but that was, I
to be fair.
believe, to pat myself on the back and my law partner Robert Barnes, Viva Barnes Law. When we drafted the Rumble terms, I said it makes no sense. You can have a warning forever. It's not a warning then. It's just a one of 4 strikes. So
Yeah.
so if there's no room for redemption, it's not a warning.
Yeah.
So
It's true.
I believe that they've appropriated that aspect of what we built into the Rumble terms of service.
Yeah.
But
We got a warning for 3 years on for something, for putting a link in one time, and it's just crazy, man. So you're saying something about a class action lawsuit? So tell me about that a little bit.
I have to refresh my memory, but it's a woman out of Quebec who's suing. She got authorization to go ahead with the class action. On behalf of.
This is all public. You can find it on
Oh
the
yeah,
internet.
I had her on. Just Elle veut savoir. It's her name is French. It means Elle wants to know.
Oui, oui.
And she's well.
So it's a French channel. Well, it's a
not that I
Canadian
look at
channel,
these
but
things.
French.
Yes, and she's a wonderful. She's a beautiful woman who was trying to work in Hollywood and trying to work in music, and luckily, I say, escaped that vortex of degeneracy. And she's got a great channel. ELO VEUT savoir SAVOIR. So she sued, and she got a good judge, who I don't know where he's from, but he definitely has an Eastern European last name, who might have had some experience, immediate with himself or with his family of communism and censorship. And he said, no, YouTube moved to have it dismissed, said, no, you can't sue because of whatever the reasons. He says, no, she's made allegations to the effect that it could reasonably lay a basis of a claim. The class of people that she's seeking to represent, content creators who were censored wrongly, or content creators who were censored, and viewers who were deprived of listening to two defined classes, and she's able to move forward with this class action out of the province of Quebec.
Wow.
But I think it's a good sign of what's to come.
So, question: if the judge finds in her favor and rules that they did,
Wrongly censor
her and gave her a strike or whatever it may be, will that set case law in the United States where creators that got strikes or because that strike might have been the stone that led to them being canceled or terminated? Would that set case law where people in the United States can get their channels back?
I don't think so, because Canada and America are different when it comes
Well, I
to
mean,
YouTube.
even within from one state to the next, I think they call it persuasive but not binding.
Yeah.
International, it's even less persuasive and even less binding.
But YouTube is an international organization,
Well,
right?
what it might show is I suspect other provinces have similar class action rules as Quebec. I mean, they're basically the same throughout Canada. So I think if this stands in Quebec, you could have potentially a national class action, like where all the they sort of band all of these lawsuits together, and you're going to inspire other lawyers to take the same chance elsewhere. I really wish I could remember the basis of they were saying that they were not applying any of their rules with any logical consistency, and so. The idea being also that it's not just the creators who have the right to speak, but people who have the right to listen. And if the judge says, if it turns out they were applying their rules wrongly or arbitrarily or capriciously, they might be entitled to nominal damages, but nominal damages of like $500 a plaintiff. Anyone who created videos on YouTube who was a resident of Quebec between 2001, 2021, 2024, you're talking big numbers.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Do this elsewhere. People need to do it. I mean, in Canada, we're suing Pfizer and Moderna, or at least there's two people who are Kayla Pollock, a woman who was. Are we allowed talking about this now?
Yeah, sure. Go
Who was rendered a quadriplegic by the Moderna booster after getting 2 Pfizer jabs?
Wow.
Is suing Moderna.
Okay.
The family of a young boy, 17 years old, dropped dead 33 days after Pfizer, Sean Hartman. His father is suing Pfizer. And so we're getting these. In Canada, we didn't have the PrEP Act immunity. We had contractual indemnification clauses.
Okay.
And so the different.
Can you explain that real quick? What is that?
Real quick is in theory, the immunity in the United States comes from a piece of legislation that immunizes, shields the companies from lawsuit. That's in the PrEP Act, and whether or not they were fraudulently misrepresenting their data, fraud vitiates everything. But bottom line, all things being proper, they had legislative immunity shielding them from suit.
Gotcha.
In Canada, I believe also, I want to say South Africa, Australia, they didn't have immunity shielding them from suit. What they had is indemnity clauses, meaning if they get sued, then the government has to hold harmless or indemnify the pharma companies by virtue of the contract. So they say, the government says, if you guys get sued, we will hold you harmless. We'll indemnify you. So whatever you order to pay, if you are, we'll pay it. And so
the government steps up and deals with
so that's where it's much different to the extent there is no legislative immunity, but only indemnity clauses where, okay, you can sue them, and they'll call the government in, and they'll say, government, assume my defense, assume any quantum that I am ordered to pay because you agreed to indemnify me for any suit. So the suit can happen, and the damages can be ordered by the court or adjudicated by the court.
That's where the Canadian tax dollars go.
Well,
holy
but now
shit.
This is my prediction, and if it happens, I'll be the smartest guy in the room, but maybe only in 5 years. This is where you get the government to say, well, holy shit, we're not going to pay out $1 billion for even if we agreed to that.
Yeah.
We're going to go in there and find out where you lied to us about your data so that we can get out of the indemnity clause and say, now you guys are up poop creek. You lied, and we would indemnify you if you told us what you were doing at the time. And now, oh, look, we never knew. We didn't know at the time. So we're getting out of our indemnity clause because fraud vitiates everything.
What's the Canadian government's benefit of taking on that huge liability, though? Like, what is their... Like, why are they basically just suiting up and defending these pharmaceutical companies where they're opening themselves up? Like, what's the benefit? Like, do they pay them a bunch of money, or?
Well, there's probably a little bit of that. That's a decent question. There might be an issue about, I wonder if you sue Pfizer, for example.
Yeah.
They're ordered to pay whatever. They call the government and say, you take care of that. Well, on the one hand, it's not the government's money. I'm trying to think if there's a way that they could get out of it by, like, sovereign immunity, but I don't think there is. If you were to ask the politicians at the time, I'm sure they would say the pharma companies asked for it, and we were not in a position to negotiate. They wouldn't have brought it to market otherwise. So there actually was, I don't know if anybody can pull up videos in real time. There's a guy named Anthony Housefather.
Yeah, they could pull it up.
It's tough to find.
Okay.
Anthony Housefather was a liberal politician who basically explained in a 2-minute video that I keep posting periodically to remind the world, explaining how they entered into these contracts and why there's NDAs around them and why the employees of the government can't disclose the terms of the agreements above and beyond what's been publicly ordered under basically the equivalent of FOIA requests. And he went on for a minute and a half and he said, look, we were all in a panic. And the pharma company said we wouldn't bring it to market unless you agreed to hold us harmless. We were rushing through development, we were rushing through research, and we weren't prepared to bring it to market unless you gave us these terms of the contract. And the guy said, and we needed them, and we agreed to it, and we got a vaccine to market.
Wow.
But that's I have to think about that. If there's a way, I don't think there could be a way for the government to raise sovereign immunity for a claim that it has to pay out on behalf of a corporation that it agreed to hold harmless. But I'll booknote that.
That's
and
crazy,
look
man.
into that.
Okay, yeah, because I was like, in my head, I'm like, what is their incentive?
It's a good question. Like, why would they agree to it?
That's an enormous amount of liability. And then especially with something as like, as new as like the jab, where you only had a year to really get it out, you know that there's going to be a bunch of side effects. Like, most vaccines take the better part of a decade to actually be like formulated, tested, tried, proven to be safe. And they're over here saying within a year, it's safe and effective.
No.
What the hell? Impossible.
I'm convinced, well, I think we all are convinced they knew it was neither safe nor effective when they were saying it was safe and effective, because I always say that there's two types of lies. One is saying something that you know is false, and the other is asserting something that you have no reason to believe is true.
There you go.
And when they said safe and effective, and you got that Irish or British woman who says, well, of course we didn't test for transmission. We were moving at the speed of science, testing the markets. I mean, they were saying things that they had no reason to be saying as fact, while censoring people who were rightly flagging.
Yeah.
Let's be real here. They were testing control to see if people follow what they mandated. Mask, stay in your home, and it worked.
It's funny. I've probably gone on something of a big arc that anybody following me for the last 5 years would have seen. But in the beginning, people were saying the mask is a symbol of social compliance. And look, at the time, the same logic. Well, a mask they wear during surgery, so it must do something. I, at the very least, said it can't hurt you. You just wear a mask. I wasn't telling anybody what else to do, and I was doing it, to avoid conflict of people who are crazy to like.
Especially in Canada.
And Quebec was even worse.
Yeah.
Like,
woke of the woke of the woke.
But like, I fully appreciate it has become. I mean, I don't know if it was to that extent at the beginning. It's become a symbol of compliance or a symbol of good citizenry. I mean, there's a reason when they started using it as an avatar. That is your public display of good citizenry, compliant citizen. I didn't know at the time that not only are they not effective, which we all suspected, but they are actually also potentially very damaging.
Yes.
In terms of cavities, in terms of respiratory issues. In Quebec, my crowd's going to know this.
Sanitary issues all over the place.
Oh, you're supposed to change those disposable ones every 8 hours, and you got kids keeping it in their pocket for 5 days.
Yeah.
In Quebec, I don't know if you knew this, CBC really ran a massive article on it, that the government recalled tens of thousands of potentially toxic face masks because they contained microscopic parts of graphene. And this is one of the moments which I remember is at my kids' daycare. One of the daycare teachers who at the time liked me, I don't think the person likes me anymore, came up to me sobbing and saying, "Did you hear the news?" And I was like, "I didn't hear the news." And the person says they've recalled all these masks that they say are potentially toxic because the graphene, we've been wearing them. It felt like we had cat hair in our throats for months. And I was like, yeah. And then meanwhile, this same person will now follow what the government says on other issues, which is an anomaly. But so potentially toxic masks, plastics now being found deep in the lungs, mask mouth, mask knee, cavities. And they knew at the time that they didn't do jack squat.
Dr. Fauci, is he going to be, in any case, punished?
No.
No?
Yeah, it's...
no. Damn.
I mean, unless a Trump comes into power, but even if Trump comes into power now, he
Fauci
has
was this
not...
guy.
Well, that's the thing, and he hasn't reversed course on the frickin'... He's still taking credit for Operation Warp Speed.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
So unless...
That's his biggest L, in my opinion.
It's not. It's beyond an L. It will be very problematic to some people. Maybe people are going to look past it, but the amount of people who know people who are injured will not look past it. And I, at one point in my podcast, on a tweet, I laid out here's the argument. They lied to us. We didn't know. Operation Warp Speed was only intended to be for those who were most vulnerable while continuing the search and permission of therapeutics. It was never intended to be a blanket mandate for children 6 months and up. They lied to me, and now I know, and let's get RFK Jr. on a commission to look into it. That's his out. But to keep saying, Operation Warp Speed was a great success to try to cater to the left vote, it's
and
crazy.
I think with Trump, and I talked about this on a Twitter space when it comes to the whole Operation Warp Speed, I don't think, because here's the thing people got to understand. When you're the president, right, you don't know everything. You got your cabinet, they're telling you what it is, you're getting advised by a doctor, we can do this, etc., etc. He's obviously not a doctor. Fauci's telling him we can do this, etc. I think in Trump's mind, and I'd love to get your guys' take on this, in his head, he was like, okay, because if you guys remember, he was reluctant to shut the country down. Extremely reluctant. I'll never forget when this was first breaking out in November of 2019. Like, that's when the first, signs of this Wuhan thing is starting to pop off in China. And then next thing you know, it's February, January, and they're shutting down Italy. I remember Italy was the first major country to shut down, and then Spain, then like clockwork, the rest of Europe shut down. We're one of the last countries to shut down, and Trump was very reluctant to shut down. So, because he's a businessman first. He's like, this is going to absolutely cripple the economy, and I'm literally about to leave office, and I want to get reelected. This is terrible timing. So in his head, he was like, okay. Because I've noticed with Trump, he's really big on like being able to say, I did this, I did that, etc. This is what I did when I was in office. You watch any of his interviews, he's very quick to talk about what he accomplished when he was in office, right? And all the trials and tribulations they had to deal with while accomplishing these things. I think Warp Speed in his head was more about getting the country back open as quickly as possible so that we can continue commerce. That's what I think why he, in his head, he was like, what's the fastest way to get the country back open so that we got these businesses going? Oh, Warp Speed? Cool. The doctor says it's okay. Let's fucking do it. I want the things back open again. So in his head, I think he takes credit for Warp Speed because being able to get the country back open quicker than other places. Because if you look at the United States, relatively speaking, we were locked down a lot less than other developed first world countries. I know in Canada, you guys were shut down for years.
In Quebec, we had 5.5 months of curfew in 2021, where we couldn't leave our house after 8 o'clock until 6 in the morning.
At least here in America, though, some places lockdowns were terrible, like New York and California, etc. There were some places that were relatively open the entire time. I remember at the height of the pandemic, Georgia was open. Atlanta was completely open. No mask, no nothing. Florida was relatively open. Miami was actually the last city to open up. But Florida in general, Ron DeSantis didn't give a shit. He was like, yo, we're just going to stay open. It is what it is.
They all did something, they all had a knee-jerk panic reaction in the beginning. The issue with Trump, I'm thoroughly convinced he was probably under the impression he would be impeached and convicted of crimes against humanity if he didn't promote lockdowns. Now, the legal argument...
That too.
Yeah, I mean, and how could you not? You'd have all the doctors saying you are literally killing women and children.
He had a bunch of pressure on him to close down because he didn't want to close down. I remember him fighting it and shit.
No, for sure. But the legal argument is he didn't close down anything, with the exception of, some federally regulated industries, which it was the states that chose to do it, and some states did it harder than others, and so he could wash his hands. At the beginning, he said, better be careful. We don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be gone by April. And then he reversed course.
2 more weeks.
But that? The Operation Warp Speed, it's a very easy thing for him to reframe in a way that is accurate and allows him to stop doubling down on promoting the success of that vaccine. The ultimate irony, now we live this all backwards, Pfizer knew that they had what would be the vaccine that they did not announce until after Trump had lost the election because they didn't want him to take credit for it. And there's no doubt, and I think there's going to be a reckoning someday where they're going to have to blame the toxic effects of the vaccine on Trump. And if he doesn't distance himself from this now, all of his taking credit for Operation Warp Speed and that wonderful miracle jab, they're going to say, look, you killed however many millions of people they suspect this jab actually killed.
Good point. Good point. Yeah, so they won't give him the credit for getting it out quickly, but they'll give him the credit when the people die.
Absolutely.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, no, interesting. I'm gonna look up this class action lawsuit and see, because a lot of people lost their channels and or got strikes because of COVID, man.
No, and the bottom line is they're gonna say the same thing. It's a private company. You agree to the terms, and the terms are nebulous, opaque, easily weaponized. The easiest thing is create the parallel economy. Use them for what they're worth. It's like people say YouTube exploits its content creators. Well, its content creators can exploit YouTube as well. I mean, first of all, you make money off of it. You'd have to be stupid to say, I'm just going to cut off my nose to spite my face. It's the biggest marketplace to reach new users.
And marketing-wise.
Yeah, it's like...
Because it is a search engine.
Absolutely.
Owned by Google, the biggest search engine in the world.
I put out my Sunday, a Sunday afternoon talkie video where I talk about the upcoming live stream. That's how people on YouTube are going to discover Viva on Rumble. And so, but the easiest thing to do, you got to start and really support the parallel economy, both by platforms and by products, and wean yourself off of YouTube while using it for what it's good for.
Yeah. I agree, and that's really what it is more of a marketing thing. But like, I genuinely do believe in the next 5 to 10 years, Rumble is absolutely going to explode, because I don't see censorship going backwards. I see it only getting worse. I don't see it becoming like, oh, you know what, we're going to change our minds and like be more freedom of speech. Like, that's not going to happen unless like Elon Musk acquires YouTube, and that's not going to happen.
Well, we might. There are some anti-monopoly lawsuits out there. There's one looking to break up Google and YouTube. I don't even think if it succeeds, it's going to achieve its goal. I mean, these companies don't need to be corporately intertwined in order to know how to work with one another.
Absolutely.
It needs operating mastermind like an Elon Musk or a Chris Pavlovsky to take over YouTube. But it's losing its relevance to some extent a little bit, but certainly Rumble. My only concern with Rumble is they're going to go for the legislative attempt to take down. Like,
yes.
And I'm concerned also, like after Alex, well, actually, it's probably a good segue. After Alex Jones is liquidated, and they say, well, he can't make money anymore, and he's not making enough money that we can garnish by way of satisfying the judgment. Anybody monetizing his content on any other platform, we get to seize that. Like I'm trying to think of how they can possibly do that.
Wow.
Or pass legislation to say like he's
That's
not
a good point.
He or anybody who's been deplatformed or whatever has a judgment against them can't raise money on other platforms, so they can go after those other platforms. It's lawfare not just against the creators, but it's overt lawfare against the platforms and well, I'd say not Chris directly, but Rumble directly.
Yeah.
No, and that's a good point, and that they could do that. I mean, for those that are unaware, okay, so you guys know the Sandy Hook school shooting occurred back in 2011, 2012. Alex Jones, famously denied it, said it was crisis actors, etc. He's come out since and apologized about it, said he made a mistake. But he got sued in the state of Connecticut for, I think, $1.5 billion?
Well, he got sued for, in Connecticut, it was like unlawful corporate practices, unlawful business practices.
Okay.
Because the idea was that he was making money off of the tragedy. That one, they involved a law. I forget what it is offhand, but it was like a business practice marketing advertising law.
And he was found liable.
He was found liable by default verdict. This is what everybody has to understand.
Please, can you explain that to the audience?
Okay, here, this is going to be good. Which camera do I look at?
Yeah,
I won't look at
that one.
This one right here?
Yeah, that big one on the
Default
left.
verdict is right there.
Yeah.
It was a default verdict in that there was no trial on the merits. What happens sometimes in a lawsuit, you're dealing with a really, really bad defendant. He's a naughty man. He tears up documents, shreds evidence, doesn't respond to emails. Someone suing him says, look, he's frustrated my ability to pursue the claim. He's misbehaved so much. Court sanction him. Sometimes they'll do contempt, fines. Other times they'll do striking of motions or removing of motions from the docket. And other times they can do something called foreclose from pleading, which is you've been so bad you don't get to defend anymore, and you're gagged. Your hands, you're tied. Your mouth is shut. You can't do anything. But the plaintiffs still have to make their case. Mm-hmm. That's the worst. I mean, I practiced for 13 plus years. We had one case that oddly enough came from America of a defendant who misbehaved so badly. They said, you have to sit in the court, shut your mouth. You don't get to defend yourself, but the plaintiff has to make their case. In Alex Jones, They said you defaulted so badly on your discovery obligations, as in you didn't produce documents that he didn't have. You didn't produce records that didn't exist. They say you behaved so badly, you're not only defaulted from pleading, we're finding you liable, period. Like
Wow.
that's it. Plaintiffs didn't have to prove their claim. They didn't have to make any evidence of defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. They bypassed legal questions, which were legitimate legal questions, statute of limitations. Defamation, you don't get to. It's not a claim that exists forever. I don't know what the statute is, but if you don't file the claim within a certain amount of years of becoming aware of the statements,
Yeah.
you don't get to.
Yeah.
There was that question. There's also the question when you're talking about defamation, whether or not it was, when you're dealing with a public figure, whether or not the statements were made with actual malice.
Yeah.
In the Jones case, the question of law becomes, are these public figures, there's a term called single-purpose public figures. Nicholas Sandman, the Covington kid, was never a public figure until that video. But he only becomes a public figure for the purposes of that video. People can talk about it, say things about it, and they treat him as a public figure for the purposes of that incident. And if someone says something wrong, defamatory, to the extent he's a public figure for that particular issue,
You need an extra level
they
with
got to
the
prove
malice.
actual malice.
Yeah.
That was a question in Sandy Hook as well. The question was also whether or not Alex Jones sincerely believed what he said. None of this, they didn't deal with any of these legal questions. They bypassed all of them. And the judge in Connecticut said, you defaulted so bad that we're finding you liable as a default verdict.
So let me ask this: did they even serve him though? Like,
oh no, he was served. He appeared, and the proceedings were going on. But from what I recall, they were asking for things like lists of videos that you had on YouTube after he had been deplatformed and all the videos basically
were gone,
removed from his accessibility.
Yeah,
they were asking for money that they think he made from the specific reporting on Sandy Hook. Bear in mind also, he said stupid things, and I don't apologize for him, but I don't think it leads to this. He said stupid things. Over the course of 10 years, I think it's like 16 minutes of separate video clips.
Okay.
In that, multiple times, he said that the incident occurred, the kids were killed, it's a horrible tragedy, but it's going to be politicized. And he said, when you talk about something being a hoax, it's an ambiguous term. A hoax as in it never happened, a hoax as in it did happen, but it's being weaponized, or a hoax as in it's a false flag, performed by an op and whatever. There's various ways to describe it. But bottom line, he said 16 minutes of things over a decade, which they put into a montage like they did with January 6th,
of course,
and turned it into what you would think was his bread and butter of broadcasting for a decade.
Yeah. Like they did with Joe Rogan.
And so he said stupid things. Yeah. But they were asking for things that didn't exist or things that he didn't have access to, but they were convinced that they existed, and they were convinced that he had access to them. And then they said, well, you're not giving it to us. Default verdict. It's so absurd that at worst, like imagine someone just destroys evidence to the point where they prevent the plaintiff's ability to make their case.
Yeah.
We're talking about statements made on air. They had all of it. What they wanted was that he made millions and tens of millions of dollars off the reporting in particular, which he didn't. And I know this just because.
Well, yeah, if they were able to make a 16-minute compilation, by definition, that means they have the content.
Absolutely, they had the statements. What else would they have possibly needed?
Yeah.
But the amazing thing is, so they defaulted him in Connecticut. They defaulted him in Texas, and the trials that we saw were.
Did he have two separate cases? So he had an open case in Connecticut.
Open case in Connecticut with the Connecticut plaintiffs. Then he had a case in Texas with the Texas plaintiffs. And
there were plaintiffs in Texas?
I don't recall offhand who the plaintiffs were, but there were people who resided for the purposes of the claim in Texas. And
that were parents of the children?
Yeah, I'm not fresh on that particular detail, but he had cases in Connecticut and Texas. One was for the intentional infliction of emotional distress and the Connecticut case. And both judges are batshit crazy. But the trial that people saw, that they think was the trial, was only the trial on the quantum after liability had been found as a matter of default verdict.
So at that point, what were they actually litigating for? Were they litigating for how much he would owe at that point?
Yes, how much they suffered by way of damages. Compensatory, punitive.
So what we saw, because the general public doesn't know this stuff, right?
They think they saw a trial.
Yeah. And it wasn't. It was simply...
It was a kangaroo court show trial. I mean, it was literally a show trial where Alex Jones was precluded from asserting his innocence, stating that he apologized, because he did.
Yeah.
He was prevented from raising any of the grounds of defense, saying that he didn't have the documents, saying that he was prevented from literally saying things on the stand, and then the judge accuses him of saying that this is a show trial, as if it could be any more of a show trial. But What people saw was not a trial on the merits. It was a trial only on the quantum because liability had been found as a matter of default.
So he was
verdict.
already guilty by the time he was sitting there. They're just trying to establish how much money they're going to get out of him.
Absolutely.
What is that hearing called specifically if it's not a trial? What is it?
No, you call it a trial on
Still
quantum.
a trial.
Yeah, it's a trial on quantum. And I went down to Texas to document it. And the questions they were asking the jury when they were selecting jury for the purposes of establishing quantum were like, you know, do you think $50 million is too much? And so they basically...
That's what they were saying in the voir dire?
They were asking, like, are you okay with an obscenely insane high award? And they picked a jury that basically said, yes, we're okay with that. And that's how they get to $1.5 billion. You imagine the... by the way, just before I forget this thought, people watched that trial and they said, how the hell was he found liable? Like, what we're seeing right now...
Yeah, they're confused.
Yeah, and that was on the evidence on the quantum. They didn't even have... And people were still doubting the outcome of what they ran through by way of default verdict. So it's like people who watched that show trial on the quantum were convinced of his innocence in the long run, but that wasn't even the object of that trial, which is how absurd and bad the case was.
Because I did watch portions of it, and I remember him famously going back and forth with the Connecticut lawyer about this, and the lawyer tried to say, well, you gave us your phone, and it actually had everything in there, blah, blah, blah. I remember them going back and forth on that.
Yeah, there was an incident with the lawyer who accidentally... he accidentally gave...
Was it Alex that gave his phone and everything on there, or was it the lawyer that gave everything?
It was Alex who gave it to the lawyer, and the lawyer who accidentally transmitted it to the other party. I'm going to get mixed up on which state it was.
Accidentally?
It was Connecticut. I know it was Connecticut.
It was Connecticut. That was Norm Pattis, who's he's a great lawyer. I had him on the channel. No, but they made a mistake, and then they got documents, text messages that they then said, "Oh, look, he concealed this from us." He's like, "No, I gave it to my lawyers," and there was a question of whether or not you're even entitled to it. There was another issue where they accidentally Connecticut communicated to the Texas lawyers medical records by accident because they were apparently included in like these tens of thousands of documents that were digitally preserved that they transmitted, and then they sanctioned Norm Pattis. This lawyer out of Connecticut suspended his license, and that suspension was overturned. But the people who watched that said, "Oh my goodness, how was he even found guilty in the first place?" And then they came out with that award. The FBI agent who had no kids, no family killed in Sandy Hook, who just responded.
That responded, yes.
He was awarded $90 million because he gets up on the stand and he's rightly traumatized. He's rightly re-entering that level of trauma from the incident.
Because he responded to the scene.
Yeah, but he's describing the incident.
Yeah.
He's not describing what Alex Jones... First of all, that FBI agent was getting called a crisis actor or an actor before Jones even started covering it. But you would never know that because they never had a hearing on the merits. And so that FBI agent was already being called names, which is the only reason why Alex ever heard of the story in the first place. So
because
it had already attained a level of internet notoriety, which is how it came to the awareness of Alex. It's not he didn't start it; it had already snowballed, which is how it came to Alex's attention. And this guy, Alex, who sees conspiracies where they exist and sometimes where they don't exist, was floating the ideas and stupid ideas. And I don't agree with them. I don't adhere to them. I just understand when people see a father laughing off camera and then tearing up when he knows the camera's rolling, you know that people either maliciously or sincerely but misguidedly are going to say crisis actor because crisis actors have been used in the past to stage other events.
Yeah.
And so people, it's called like the sort of the conspiracy trauma. Once you understand the degree to which the government has staged things, false flags, lied to in the past, you look at something that happened and you don't even believe your own eyes anymore.
Skeptical.
Yeah, I do call it like conspiracy trauma.
Just so I make sure I understand this for the audience too. So he was sued by the plaintiffs, the families of the slain children at Sandy Hook. He was requested to produce certain documents and videos, etc., that they already had. He didn't produce them, so the judge said, you violated discovery. We're going to go ahead and just find you liable anyway.
Find you liable. They don't have to
without even a court proceeding.
Without a hearing with no evidence. You're liable. Now we're going to see how much you have to pay.
Because they claimed that he didn't produce discovery.
He didn't respond to discovery adequately. It's a load of crap. I mean, he communicated millions of documents, like millions of documents, text messages, everything. They had everything. There was nothing that
it's just that
exist.
They didn't like what his response was when they had discovery, I guess.
They needed to circumvent a hearing on the merits because he would not have lost a hearing on the merits, period. Okay. So they needed to find a way to bypass a hearing on the merits, the same way the New York judge, New York nipple judge Engoron out of New York had to bypass a jury trial in Donald Trump's case.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't have succeeded on the merits. And so it was a show trial by definition. come in. I've already found the guilty man. How much are you going to order him to pay? And it was a fabricated pretextual basis to default him, not out of foreclosed from pleading. Bear in mind, it's different to say you don't get to plead or defend versus you're liable. Hypothetically, I sue you, you misbehave, and that's it. But my contract that I'm suing you over is 15 years old. Well, I have to prove my case. And if I get to court, even if you're not allowed to defend yourself, and then the judge says, let me see the contract. All right, here it is. Well, it's 15 years old. You don't get to sue on this anymore.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that you can't defend doesn't mean that I have proven my case.
Yeah.
In Jones, they found him liable based on this purported...
With the plaintiffs doing nothing.
Doing nothing to succeed on the merits, and then they just come in with this show trial for quantum, where they have, one parent after another come in, and it's a horror beyond horrors.
Yeah.
And you have a jury listening to this.
Yeah.
What do you think they're going to do? There are people out there who think Alex Jones had a hand in the killing.
Yeah.
How do you defend that? You can't.
Well, I mean, you got to get the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court to get in at some point and say, due process violations, and send it back for trial. See if they'll even want to go through a trial on the merits on this. It wasn't all of the families of the Sandy Hook victims that sued. It was actually just a small amount at the nudging of the FBI. So
we saw what happened. I mean, I was in actually a Twitter space with Alex when all of this came down. Apparently, you made a video recording this out, and we'll bring everybody up to speed. So now we know what happened, right? So year passes by, 2 years pass by. I think this was like last year when this was all going down, where he was in Connecticut and they were showing out on Law and Order, the Law Network channel, him testifying and everything else like that, going back and forth with the lawyer. People get their clips, whatever the fuck. Fast forward a year or two now. He's doing InfoWars, and apparently they break into his place and try to say, shut it down, etc.
So, yeah, a little more complicated than that. And if anybody thought the first part was complicated, wait until we get into bankruptcy law. I did a little bit of bankruptcy up in Canada, and I've noticed like, once you get involved in bankruptcy, a very litigious creditor can tear open every orifice of your body looking for money, looking for wrongdoing. So it's not even clear that getting into bankruptcy was a wise protection, but again, I know, what do I know? And I would not give advice or second-guess lawyers. He filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, which is reorganization, personally and through InfoWars.
That's the most common type of bankruptcy, right?
Everyone hears
your
Chapter
business
11.
Is profitable. I'm going to reorganize it.
Yeah, well, you say like I owe people $10 million. I only make $2 million a year, whatever. Let's just see if they'll settle for X amount of dollars over a certain amount of time, so we can forgive it and move on, and the business stays a going concern. Chapter 11 is restructuring, not liquidation. Chapter 7 is liquidation. Okay. So Alex Jones, personally and through Free Speech Systems, they filed for protection reorganization.
What is Free Speech Systems?
Oh, that's what owns InfoWars.
Oh, okay. That's the holding company.
Yeah, we'll call it InfoWars.
Okay.
So he files for Chapter 11, and they try to negotiate a settlement with these judgment creditors, as we call them. They don't outrank secured creditors, so there might be some judgment creditor malpractice lawsuits against their lawyers for pissing away a multi-million-dollar settlement that was on the table, from what I understand. But so they try to say, like, we're never going to be able to pay you $1.5 billion. I said the victims of the Armenian genocide, I believe, were asking for $3 billion by way of reparations. So let's just contextualize the astronomically insane award in this case with the reality of the horrors and how that's been quantified in the past. So they're trying to restructure, say like, okay, we'll pay you, I don't know, tens of millions of dollars over 10 years and whatever. And that goes on for a while, and then it becomes clear some people don't want a settlement, some people want a silence. Yeah, well, blood. They prefer silence. They just want to shut Alex Jones up, shut him down, and as I discussed yesterday with Robert Barnes on our show, or as he elucidated, they wanted to own basically Alex Jones' personal rights, his social media accounts, his literal
That came
voice.
out a couple days ago, yeah.
So they want that's what they wanted as part of the bankruptcy, to go down to the plaintiffs for the purposes of liquidation.
Wow.
So personal social media accounts, so that they could do whatever they want, tweet out different stuff for Alex Jones's account. It became clear that at least some of the judgment creditors were not interested in a wildly insane settlement structure. Regardless, they want them shut down. And from what I understand, what happened is the CRO, the court restructuring officer, the guy named McGill, who's being paid $50,000 a month. Everybody's sucking at the teat of this lawsuit. It's exploitation of the highest order.
Wow.
He apparently came in and said, "Well, we're shutting you down. We're going to close it up. It's done."
Okay, that's when they showed up. That's what Alex was talking about.
Yeah.
They try to come in here and shut it down.
That's what happened, I think, on Friday or when he said he was sleeping in the studio Friday, Saturday.
Yes.
Then what happens on Sunday, and I don't know if this is the initiating factor that we only found out about afterwards, or if it was a response. the supplement company, which is controlled by his father, came in and filed an emergency order that said, we want to dissolve as well. Like, just we're not going to have a settlement. Let's just dissolve. But secured creditors are outranked by they outrank judgment creditors. So this is more complicated legalese stuff. You can lend money, and if you secure your loan through a hypothec or whatever, you're a secured creditor. You're going to outrank everybody who's just like a supplier who is owed money here and there. And so the secured creditor come in and say, liquidate, but I get paid first. And so whatever's left, then the judgment creditors can get that. And so that, I think, might have been the strategy. I'm not sure. But the bottom line, they went to court on Friday where the judge was determining, do they go to Chapter 7 for both free speech and for Jones? And the judge said, no, we're going to keep InfoWars running because it's a money-making industry, business. Yeah. But Alex Jones, we're going to go into liquidation, sell all of his assets, and that's it. He'll have his home. He'll have his homestead laws in Texas are very good. But
what are homestead laws?
It's like you get to keep certain assets, certain property, your home.
Of course.
But apparently in Texas, it's very, you could have a big home. You could have a big ranch and it's a home.
Yeah.
And so they can't seize that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the limits are of what they can seize or cannot seize. But the bottom line.
Yeah, because historically Texas is a farming state. So that makes sense why that would be there.
That's a good point.
It used to be a capital punishment, by the way, to steal someone's cows. Fun fact, that's why the Texas Rangers were created. Well, seriously, for cow theft.
That sounds unduly harsh.
Yeah, like that's literally why the Texas Rangers were created. You can look it up; it's hilarious. But that's Texas has very strong protections of the home for that very reason, because it's your livelihood. You're farming, etc. That's how you make your money. So that makes sense.
And Florida's got decent laws as well, but Texas apparently is very robust.
Huge, yeah.
And so the judge ultimately said, "Okay, fine, Jones, you liquidate however many millions of dollars they get from your." Gun collections, I think he had some collections that they were selling. They'll get a few $1 million.
Boats, all that other stuff they're going to take.
And he'll keep his home. He'll keep his ability to make a certain amount of money that I think does not get garnished. But what was clear from the hearing, because I was listening to it in real time, the plaintiffs are not going to stop. They're going to find ways to attempt to undo each and every transaction for the last however many years and claw back everything. They want him silenced.
Yeah.
And I whether or not it's a coincidence that this all happened after Trump got elected, and many people, and I suspect the Clinton war machine, blames Jones for Trump getting elected.
Yeah,
this is a revenge, or is a vengeance, not justice.
It's interesting because I literally tweeted, I was like, this isn't about getting the money back for the victims. This is about silencing him.
Beyond that, it's about appropriating his voice so they can do whatever the hell they want with him.
Because I look at it like, if you're actually incentivized to get your money back, why would you destroy the business that generates the income that would pay you back what you're seeking? That doesn't make sense. So
not just that, they had a wildly, they might not like it given the amount of the award, but they had a wildly, favorable, generous settlement offer from what I understand. Like it's public, but a lot structured over years. And from what I understand and from what I heard during the court proceedings, or at least as far as I understood it, there seems to be friction between the Connecticut plaintiffs and the Texas plaintiffs. Because I don't know who gets paid first between the state of Texas and Connecticut. But some are saying, we wanted that settlement from what I understand, and others are saying, we don't want it. And now what's going to happen is they're not going to get it. Like, they're not going to get the amount that was on the table. And I am predicting that there's going to be malpractice lawsuits or lawsuits from some of the plaintiffs against their lawyers for allowing their lawyers to exact their own politics in this, as opposed to representing the best interests of their clients.
Interesting.
So we'll see. That's the big prediction. We'll see if that happens.
Man.
It's a nightmare.
Shit.
They've turned Alex Jones into a martyr, where this is not. I mean, Robert Barnes, he always says this, and this is, he knows Alex much better than I do. He's like, Jones was ready to retire, and if he'd probably be off the air by his own will right now. But now they've turned him into a martyr, and they've turned him into a living.
Was he really actually thinking about retiring?
I don't know. I don't think he could. I don't know him. I've never met him in person.
Yeah.
But I've had him on the show. I've been on his. But he might have just retired naturally by now. Mm-hmm. But they've turned him into a martyr, and they've turned him into a symbol of
because he was yelling. You saying I'm going to fight this shit. Like he's like, yeah, you guys.
He'll do it for free. Like he'll do it for free, or he'll do it and make minimal amounts, and his voice will be more amplified than ever. And so they don't understand, like from the Trump lawsuits, the Trump indictments, they don't understand everything they're doing highlights their corruption and amplifies the voice of the person they're trying to suppress.
Yeah. Did Trump getting convicted of all 34 counts? What he raised $7 million? $70 million
in 2 days. If you believe the numbers, that people don't want to believe the numbers, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hell, okay, let's say 30 million. Let's say half. 35. It doesn't matter. That's an insane amount of money.
He also converted the black vote quite easily. just like that.
Yep.
I see. I predicted this last year, and not because of the indictments. It might be superficial to say, well, he's gotten charged, and so now he's going to get the black vote. I kind of find that not trivializing what's happening, but what's clear is I think he's getting the minority vote in a way that he's not gotten before. So I read a poll today that said he's up to like 21% of the black vote, which I predicted last year. But he's quite clearly exposing the corruption of the system, and people can empathize with him now. Anybody who's ever gone through this, because he's not the first person that this has been done to. This has been done to lots of people.
Yeah. So they just humanized Donald Trump is what they basically did.
Yeah.
For the general public.
From your, I want to say, expertise, do you think the American system of law is, I want to say, flawed?
Well, okay, from my I won't say from my expertise, I'll say from my experience. It's fucked up beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And the question that I grapple with is it worse than Canada? I'm not sure that it's worse than Canada. It might be, but it's certainly bigger and it's certainly badder. Like the stuff that I've seen happen now is
circus town.
I mean, like people make fun of Putin and they call him an autocrat and a tyrant. This is stuff like we don't jail our opponents here, and yeah, you do. You're trying to do it right now. Oh, well, at least we don't poison them like they do in Russia. And I'm not even sure that Putin poisoned Navalny. I got my theories about that, but it's broken beyond what I ever could have imagined, and it's been exposed for the world to see. It's atrocious, but it's a system that's been broken this way forever, and it's just that the people who've been the victim of it, sitting in jail, wrongly convicted for 25 years, were poor, disfavored, didn't have the bullhorn, and nobody saw it, nobody cared, and those who did said, well, they must have done something to deserve it. And now they understand what's been done to Donald Trump has been done to hundreds of thousands of other Americans.
Yeah.
And those are the people who are going to relate to Trump. And yeah, it's the Great Awakening, as Al3x Jones's book.
So much stuff going on right now.
It's wild.
All right, so I can read some of these chats, and then
Speaking of awakening,
go ahead.
we have a yacht party in July, man. If you want to stay woke, have fun at the party, and actually enjoy people of success and of greater bounds, creators, tap into the actual yacht party. Tickets are up right now for sale. A link down below.
CastleClub.tv.
And we'll be actually doing we're going to the event in Vegas on 28th.
Yeah, so it won't be June 28th, guys. It's going to be July 12th or 13th is when we're going to do the yacht party. Friday or Saturday, one of those 2 days. So, yeah. Okay, so we got Sneeko here. W Stream, appreciate that. Sneeko, I think you got new teeth. Yo, come by tonight, by the way, for after hours.
He got new teeth?
Yeah, he went to the dentist today.
Wait,
there's nothing worse than cracking a tooth.
It sucks.
Wait.
It's the worst.
It was that fast?
Yeah, he went to the dentist next day, bro. It's 2024, man.
Okay.
And he streamed it too. Hilarious.
He got veneers?
I don't know if he got veneers. I think he just fixed the chip tooth.
Oh.
Hey, Myron, thanks for all you've done. Do you have any advice to help not give a F what haters say about me during my personal IGN to an online fitness coaching page? Bro, you just don't care. You got to just move on. You guys see, if people are talking about you, that means you're relevant. Myron, you should 10x the CC fee for the haters that can't get a clue. Might as well get something useful out of them. Nah, man, like I said, it is what it is, man. People are going to say and do whatever they want to do. So,
Myron, if I could, to young Cliff, I would also like take it from the other way. Imagine how miserable that person's life is who's shitting on you on the internet, to be sitting there shitting on someone on the internet, and empathize with how miserable their lives must be in order to get over it, and also maybe even feel bad for the person.
Yeah.
The best revenge for haters is to live a good life.
Honestly, I don't even know that these idiots make videos on us unless you guys bring it to our attention. I don't even know most of the time.
Nope. I'll never forget, we were in, I think it was Vegas, for our Power Slap. We're heading from Vegas to go to Romania. We were talking to Andrew, and I asked Andrew, how do you do with haters, bro? He's like, I don't want to see videos, people talking about me. I don't want to say anything. Don't send it to me. And I was like, it's kind of weird. When I thought about it, hold on, that's smart, because he doesn't want to see any bullshit. And I'm like, you live a good life. Now I understand why. So makes sense. You don't want to see bullshit.
I don't even know. Yeah. So guys, stop sending me videos of our ops sending me talking shit about us. Like I don't want to see it, man.
The goal is to distract you and make you less effective at what you're doing. That is
pisses you off, and it's whatever. Because we're all human, right? So like when people sit there and criticize you and try to say you're a scammer or a liar, when you've done everything in your power to be as transparent and as honest with the people as possible. I mean, hell, I talk about my real estate. Like I've been doxxed on the real estate that I have just because I share how much money I make, how I do my deals, etc. And it's like come back to bite me, and I'm like, okay, so I'm honest, and these idiots want to use that against me and say, oh, blah, 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 I'm pocket watch and stuff. And it's like, I'm just trying to help people to teach you guys how to invest in real estate. So
all my people that I've met over the years, bro, if you don't have a better life than me, you can say whatever. I don't care. Because at least, like, I know my life is good. Is your life good? Probably not. So that's what haters are for, man.
Viva, please tell this Fed and Vinny about Garrett Ziegler. I think more people need to interview him, and Myron would be great at it.
Who's the Fed?
Because I used to work in law enforcement.
Okay,
so I don't know who Garrett Ziegler
Garrett
is.
Ziegler wrote the book called, he's a owner of Marco Polo 501c3. He wrote the memo, the report on the Hunter Biden laptop story. Oh, crap, I could have brought one down. Next time I'll see, I'll bring him. He made the memo detailing every aspect of the Hunter Biden laptop, cross-referencing bank accounts, dates of travel. It's the most thorough forensic analysis of the laptop ever, with all of the evidence out there. And he's an amazing lead. He's almost like he's not a Forrest Gump type.
Is he on YouTube or where's he at?
He's on Twitter.
Okay.
He's just an idiot savant when it comes to the Hunter Biden laptop.
Okay.
It'd make for an amazing interview.
Yeah, which, speaking of which, Hunter Biden recently just got convicted guilty of all counts on his federal guns trial. So, yeah, that was pretty open. I knew he was going to lose that shit open and shut, bro.
That nigga living life, bro.
Like, bro, you're not going to win that.
Holy.
Like, you're a drug user and you have a gun. Done, bro. Like, that's 18 U.S.C. 922 all day. What else do we got here? Damn, I did used to feel that cotton hairball in my throat. Okay, that's from Alex the Great. And then David,
man.
thank you for being a good human and a good lawyer. We need more people that can fix this crooked legal system. We need more good men to focus on this never-ending battle while getting paid very well. We are only a few generations away from losing all our free speech. It's scary, the thought. It's a scary thought. Myron, thank you for opening all of our eyes to the truth. I'm ready to buy the new merch. Thank you, FNF. Yes, new merch is going to be coming out soon. Don't worry, guys. And that's from Carnell's. Anything else?
Oh, we're also way closer than several generations away from a total loss of freedom. We're like 5 to 7 years.
Yeah,
if it doesn't,
literally.
You think we're close?
I mean, the public sentiment has to be a massive blowback to say, like, free speech is cool again and censorship is not cool, and if it hurts my feelings, grow the F up and deal with it. We're not yet there, but I think we're getting there in the States.
How do you think we stop censorship? How do we go about it?
I say legally, the censorship. How do you stop censorship?
It's a tough question. I know it sounds simple, but like when you actually think about it, like, wait, hold on.
No, because you have to have companies that are willing to be bold and deal with the hate.
It's the advertisers that control it.
But I don't know. I mean, you have to have a shift in the zeitgeist. Up in Canada, you have hate speech laws. Yeah. You have like gender identity and gender expression as aggravating factors for hate crimes, and then you have companies that have to abide by those policies of misgendering it. So I don't know, but it has to be grassroots, bottom up, and then top down, and somehow they'll meet in the middle and make the change. But I think we're getting there. Like, it's odd. It only occurs to people when they are the ones getting censored. Yeah. When it's their political adversaries, it's all fun and games, and it's the rules of the game, and then it bites them in the ass and like, oh, that's not fair. So it's got to get everybody personally before they get personally invested.
And I just find it interesting how when Elon Musk took over Twitter, he even said it that like conservative voices were being restricted like 10 times more than the left. And, he wanted to create a platform for free speech. And, I applaud him for that because X now is a lot better than it was. I'm very active on X now, whereas like a couple years ago I wasn't, because you would literally get banned for anything on X. It was really annoying. And then you got platforms like Rumble, and it's interesting too that like when I look at Rumble, every big conservative creator is on Rumble, every single one. And there's even some, liberals on there as well. I just think in the next 5 to 10 years because I think censorship's only going to get worse. I think it's honestly just going to get worse.
And the enforcement is going to get much more effective. Like when everything goes digital, it's going to be much easier to
shut you down.
Shut you down. I mean, in Canada, segueing into the trucker convoy a little bit.
Go ahead.
When they froze bank accounts in the absence of any conviction, in the absence of any court order, when they deplatform people, they did in the States a little bit as well, but. It's the digital control is going to ensure full compliance, and so you need to have sort of a digital charter of rights, which we don't seem to have yet. I think the number one thing, banking should be deemed to be a utility that cannot be denied from somebody. Yeah. The ultimate, insanity of this is you have serial killers in Canada. Paul Bernardo, who is in jail, they can have bank accounts. Yeah. But a trucker protester has their bank account frozen. Jeremy McKenzie, leader of Diagolon, a meme internet world, gets deplatformed and can't open up a bank account.
I mean, interesting. You look at someone like Russell Brand, right? They demonetized him on YouTube and they ran his name through the mud with zero evidence. Yeah, some girl comes up and says, I was assaulted, blah, blah, blah. No police reports have been filed. No criminal investigation has been done. Nothing, but he gets demonetized on YouTube and gets his name ran through. Meanwhile, we see footage of Diddy beating up Cassidy in a hotel, and his music videos are all still monetized, and he's still chilling on YouTube. He's still on Instagram. He's not canceled anywhere. It's just incredible to me how there is selective punishment. They lobby to silence you. Like what I've noticed, you know, now Chris talked about this on a space one time. Different governments do different approaches, right? So like in some places where free speech is like not a thing, they just turn you off outright, right? They're just like, whatever, like it is what it is. We're going to just silence you, right? But in America, what they do is they have these companies like the ADL and Media Matters or whatever. They just write a hit piece on you. And they say, did you know that XYZ platform allowed this individual to say this comments about these people and promoting hate speech, and they're monetizing on that platform? And these platforms get terrified because that looks bad for advertisers. And what do? They either cancel you, they demonetize you, or whatever it may be. So that's how they get around the free speech thing in the United States. Whereas in other places, they just shut you down.
Yeah, no, it's it. And the ADL does the dirtiest of the dirty. It was me. No, this was Media Matters that did this. Where they basically fabricate the results.
They write hit pieces on Rumble every day.
Yeah, write the hit pieces, get the advertisers to pull their money, and then you wonder, like, I say the ADL is the Anti-Defamation League. I mean, they've done more to generate conspiracy theories and propagate negative stereotypes, despite what they purport to want to fight. You know, the fastest way to convince someone that they're right is tell them they can't say it.
Yeah.
But it's going to offend a specific classes of people. You can't misgender. You can't use Christ is King. It's the fastest way to confirm in the minds of those people who would say those things that they're right in their beliefs and they're right for saying it.
Yeah.
And so, can you imagine? Like, first of all, I'm going to believe that an advertiser is not going to want to advertise where the eyeballs are. Not like I'm not talking about a decapitation video, which was the first adpocalypse on YouTube. Like controversy, bullshit. You have paid product advertisement in Pulp Fiction, in horror movies. Don't give me this crap that they don't want to advertise next to controversial characters on the internet. Bull crap. They want where the eyeballs are, except when it comes to politics where they need to control the narrative. And it's about control. It's not even about money anymore. That's
it's definitely not
the
about
most
money.
dangerous thing.
It's not about money because they will go ahead and demonetize a huge channel or cancel a huge channel because it doesn't align with a certain narrative. And they got enough money to do it. Like when you're a monopoly, like we were discussing before, it doesn't matter. So I think it's just about just moving intelligently and understanding what you can say on certain platforms, what you can. And this is why I love Rumble so much, because it's like we don't have to worry about any of that crap with Rumble. Like it's the closest to free speech that you're going to get. And Elon and Rumble, I think, if I'm not mistaken, have a lawsuit against Media Matters and ADL.
They're both.
Yeah,
they're both suing them. I forget which one. Which one?
Media Matters had to downsize significantly too, so fuck them.
Oh, they're the ones who just announced a bunch of layoffs.
Yes.
Okay.
Media Matters.
So Media Matters was the one that ran They basically falsified the results, or at least inorganically generated results to make it look like it's a widespread problem to get people to pull advertising dollars from Twitter, and they're going to trial soon. They deserve to be bankrupted, and they deserve to be held personally liable for tortious interference with contracts. That's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's like the Oberlin case, where you're basically calling someone wrongly a racist just because you can get away with it, interfering with their business, trying to get them shut down, and then they get caught. And then they complain, this is Elon weaponizing his big machine against us small little 501c3 horse crap. They know what they're doing when they do it, and they deserve to get politically.
Not only that, they go the next level. Like what they purposely did was they went on Twitter, and they took accounts that like were Nazi accounts allegedly to them. And what they did was they would look at the thing and look at what advertisements would show up. Then they would refresh the tweet and see what other advertisers came in, and they just went ahead and did that multiple times.
I think
and then contacted all those advertisers. Are you aware of the fact that your advertisement appears next to this Nazi propaganda? And
I think it was even more insidious than that. They took newly created or fresh accounts that I think didn't have certain restrictions on them, or ad restrictions, or they just followed these wildly offensive accounts and big brand accounts. And you do that and then just refresh, so that you artificially because nobody acts like that on Twitter.
Yeah.
And so they follow some Nazi account and then follow big brand, and then one day it pops up and they screen grab and say, look, this is a big problem.
Yeah.
It's nothing shy of tortious interference. And it's wild. Like when Elon bought Twitter, it was all-out warfare in all respects. The Delaware lawsuit where they deny him his bonus, the threats of investigation, both domestic and abroad in Brazil, and then these bullshit hit pieces where they try to put Twitter out of business. They try to put Rumble out of business. At some point, these flipping coward advertisers are going to have to say, we're here to make money and we're here to reach eyeballs, and barring the most extreme stuff, because there's already protocol involved in this, we're not going to cave to this vocal minority group of tyrants that's trying to control what everyone can hear, see, and consume. But they don't have that courage yet.
You know, it's crazy to me because it's like, did they not learn from Gillette when they did that whole toxic masculinity push back in like 2019, 2020? Did they not learn from Budweiser's mistakes of, bringing Dylan Mulvaney in to try to push it and ostracize their entire customer base? Like, I don't get are advertisers not waking up and realizing that Americans are sick and fucking tired of being censored, being told to be politically correct, etc.? Like, people don't want to sit there and be told what they can and can't say all the time. Like, advertisers need to wake up, grow a set of nuts, and realize, hey, it doesn't matter where the fuck you put your ads at if the content creator is generating views. You're going to go ahead and be able to make some money off of that. But they're sitting here saying, oh, well, we don't want to, because if you look at it, like, who are they targeting most of the time, saying that they're bigots and offensive and all this other stuff? It's most of the time conservative creators.
No, it's
But they've been exploding in popularity the past 5 to 10 years. Since Trump took office in 2016, I've seen like an explosion in people going more and more conservative. And it's not necessarily that they're going more and more conservative. I think it's that the left continues to go more left. So
the Overton window has shifted. Well, the amazing thing
Tim
is...
Pool used to be considered a liberal.
Now you're a bigot.
Yeah.
The amazing thing is it had to do with Dylan Mulvaney. Oh, gosh, I forgot my thought. It'll come back in a second.
No worries.
But no, oh, hold on one second. It's going to drive me crazy. With Dylan Mulvaney...
The Bud Light ads.
Pulling sponsors?
No, but they themselves partner with some of the most scandalous perverts on earth, and then just want to wash their hands when they do it. But the second anybody says something remotely controversial, they then pretend that they're ideologically aligned with the people who they advertise on. I mean, it's such a stupid idea to say that I am somehow morally and contractually obligated to adhere to the ideology of someone I'm advertising with. You're not talking about a brand sponsorship where like the spokesperson becomes the face of the company. You're talking about a passive ad on a channel.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
So we'll get there, but the problem is we might have reached something of a critical mass where when Bud Light went stupid with Dylan Mulvaney, or even if it was an insignificant stupid, and then people were like, well, and I was part of it. It's like, well, I'm not going to buy Bud Light. I'm going to buy Stella Artois.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, congratulations, jackass. It's owned by the same company. It's like it's gotten so big.
Monopolies.
Basically monopolies where you have the inability to effectively boycott if there's certain products that you want to consume. And so it goes back to the parallel economy. You got to really, sort of do a due diligence on your companies. Public Square is a company publicly traded. They've partnered with Rumble. They're amazing. Create just a place where I know that there's certain... I don't even want to know their politics. I just want to know that they're not suppressors of free speech for ideological dogma.
Yeah.
Just tell me that you're not going to do certain things, and I'll be very happy to buy your product.
I think everyone should have the ability to speak. There's people that I disagree with on a bunch of different issues, but I don't think they should ever be canceled just because they have different viewpoints, whether how radical left or how radical right they might be. It's like, this is the United States of America. The First Amendment is very important, and we need to stand by it. But what's ended up happening is these platforms become monopolies, and then they say, well, we're a privately owned business. We do what the fuck we want to do, which I guess I understand. But at some point, you have a duty to uphold. If you're an American business and you have the monopoly on people being able to create content, et cetera, and reach a bunch of people, you got to have some level of duty to be able to adhere to certain amendments and certain laws. But it is what it is. They're always going to say, well, it's a private company. So
it's a private company until you realize that, the head of the FBI is now infiltrated the company and basically using it as an Operation Mockingbird 2.0.
Yeah.
Like Twitter, before Elon, I don't care that on paper it's a public company. It was an intelligence apparatus and a government apparatus. It was an undisclosed extension of the government.
It was.
And that's what fascism in its purest sense is. Like, you have the marriage, the incestuous relationship.
Facebook too.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and Zuckerberg comes out and says, yeah, well, we suppressed the Hunter Biden story, but it was still accessible. It was just radically diminished. That's called doing the government's bidding.
Yeah.
And so when you have a private enterprise doing the government's bidding, they become government agents and they become subject to the Constitution.
Damn, that's so true because, when I was an agent, right? Let's say I have an informant, he can't entrap people. Like, if he does something and he entraps them, well, even though he's not a government employee, he's acting on the behalf of the government. He's still considered a government agent. So, yeah, that's a good point. If you're over here doing the government's bidding and doing what they say and suppressing certain things or whatever, you've effectively become the government. So guess what? Now you got to adhere to government regulations and rules.
It is at issue right now. It's in Biden v. Missouri, which is the other one of the other big cases that's going on that deals with the government interference or coercion or involvement.
That guy's suing. Is it the state attorney?
It's the state attorney general.
The attorney
of
general
Missouri,
at Missouri, Louisiana. I forget what
Missouri,
state.
definitely.
He's suing Media Matters too.
That's good.
Yeah.
No, they're good. These companies, they deserve to have to pay out the wazoo for what they've done.
Dude,
because
you know how many lives these idiots have destroyed?
and they're more than happy to. It's like there's nothing when it comes to the Jan 6ers and the ones who take their own lives because of the process. These evil scoundrels are sitting there laughing and saying that's one less ideological adversary that we're going to have to deal with.
They've written so many hit pieces on Rumble. They've written hit pieces on us, Russell Brand, Sneeko, Nick Fuentes. Every single thing that on everybody, anyone that is on Rumble, it's like there's Steven Crowder. They've written hit pieces on everybody. I'm sure they've probably written some on you.
Yeah, I'm a good Canadian boy.
Yeah. Alex Jones, like everybody.
Alex Jones. I mean, the thing is, it's almost like they create this world where it's by definition, you end up on Rumble, you are an extremist. Period.
Yeah.
But no, I've had
That's what they say,
one of the reasons why I relinquished my law license up in Quebec is I was paying $3,000 a year so that idiots can file anonymous bar complaints because they think my tweets are mean. This is where it's at in Canada. It hasn't become law yet.
Yeah, but America's next, though.
Well, I mean, California and New York are following Canada's example, and they're the big states with big influence. But it trickles down. It's communism trickles down.
That means whatever you said in the past, Canada will be used against you in the future.
And that's one of the provisions of the law where it said if you have access to delete a post or a social media post and you don't, and it gets reshared, that counts as republication for the purposes of the law.
That's wild.
It's Orwellian. And people don't even know because people just want to live their lives and be left alone. I was just listening to the famous scene from Network. It's like, can you just leave me alone in my living room? And that's all that people want. But then while they're asking to be left alone, their freedoms and their lives are being stolen from them from an overbearing government.
And they don't even know it.
When I saw what happened to Andrew Tate, when they went back to his old videos and brought him up to judge him on his future self.
Sex trafficking.
I was like, wow, this is a precedent of what's coming in the future. It's scary, man.
It's what was done with Jones. I mean, Jones was the canary in the coal mine, and it's like it's the most amazing thing, like how they went after Tate. And people say people are convinced that they don't like people and they have no bloody idea why, and they say, "Well, I've seen a few clips," and people say stupid things, and one is not condemned for the rest of their lives based on the stupidest things they've ever said. There's certain things that you can do that are irredeemable, but those are very few and far in between. But they go after Tate, and then Tate becomes popular. Tate becomes, let's say, conservative, whatever. Tate becomes a political adversary, and then, lo and behold, lawfare in Romania. It's like people make a joke about the Matrix coming after you, and it sort of becomes a meme or a trope. But my goodness, it certainly pans out to be accurate.
Something's there.
We've seen it happen with people like Russell Brand, Alex Jones, Andrew Tate, Donald Trump, etc. I mean, if you don't believe that having certain viewpoints puts you under the crosshairs, I don't know what to say because it's definitely real.
I believe in the future is going to be frozen accounts, cell phone is going to be watched, can't travel, and as well social media. So at that point, what do? You can't do anything.
Well, do you want to get blackpilled at that point or super cynical? At that point, people turn to violence.
Or they kill you.
Well, I think they would rather you turn into the monster that they wanted you to be from the beginning so they can then say, look at these.
Yeah, so
he was always violent.
We were right all along. I have to look into the Ted Kaczynski story because I know that there's more to that than I definitely know that I understand.
Yeah.
But this is like the toughest thing is not to become the monster that they want you to become. Because these are all acts of provocation.
Yeah.
They want to create the extremists so they can then rely on the acts of the extremists to enforce more laws and expand their own power.
I was literally talking about this on a space. I was telling people, like, if you never rebel, you don't sit here and we're not going to take it back with some trying to do some violent upheaval. That's stupid. What we got to do is use our platforms, use platforms like X and Rumble, etc., get our voices out there because people are slowly waking up. They are waking up. Maybe not this election cycle because we're focusing on getting Trump in, but after that, etc., people are waking up and realizing that the bullshit is going on. And platforms like Rumble and X are helping that. So We can absolutely get these clowns out of office and get the guys in that we need to get if we're able to build up enough influence, unite people that way, because they want you to do the stuff on January 6th, call you a violent insurrectionist, put you in jail, etc., and silence you, because they know once they put you in jail, you can't say nothing. So you don't give them what they want. You use your influence, you use your mouthpiece, you use your brain, and you get these guys out of office to put the people in that we need to put in through legally.
I actually disagree. I don't think you could get them out of office. What I think is when you tweet and put yourself out there like that, they know who you are, and they just target you. However, if you're smart about it, you work from the inside out. You become one of them, and you work from the inside. That's what I think.
That is the operating theory as to why Elon brought in the CEO.
Yes.
Has a Y in it. What's her name again?
I can't remember her full name, but
That's well, I think they could be voted out of office because I think you can. You don't. The expression is you don't need to wake up the sheep. You need to mobilize. You don't need to wake up 100% of the sheep. You need to mobilize 10% of the lions. Something along those lines. I've screwed it up, but that's the idea.
Yeah.
You just need to get a certain critical mass, and it doesn't need to be that much to affect the change. But the problem is you got to avoid the temptations, and you got to, on the one hand, call out the feds. No pun and no meme here.
I know,
You call out the Ray Epses. You don't listen to the Ray Epses.
Yeah.
Also, you got to watch for the Operation Co-Intel-Pro type.
Anyone that's advocating for violence, like they're an idiot. Like,
advocating for violence or creating infighting.
Yeah.
And turning. You don't have to agree with everything everybody says in order to be ideologically aligned on the most important things.
Mm-hmm.
Creating infighting among ideological allies is something they've been doing forever. It's something the FBI and CIA has been doing for a long time, and I see a lot of it today. And so the question
that's
is
smart.
Well, no, it's fantastic. Divide and conquer. It's
That way you don't have to do all your dirty work. You just like show up, plant some seeds, and then you just watch it fall apart.
Absolutely. You watch people scratching each other's eyes out on the internet, and then you have fights between big influential individuals, influencers, platforms, and then everyone says, look at these people. They can't even get along among themselves.
Yeah, that's how you win. Are we some chats
where
here?
we at here? Yeah, read some chats, and then we'll close out here. Hope you guys are enjoying the podcast, by the way. Hi, IQ Conversation here with Viva Frei. Hey, FNF, much respect at what you guys do. Hey, Myron, how do I find like-minded guys in Canada or a really woke country? Don't worry, bro. We are literally in the process. I got, I think, 15 cities. We need to get Toronto next, where we're going to go ahead and have CastleClub generals, man, and we're going to be doing meetups and everything else like that. I'm going to do a meeting with the generals first, then we're going to introduce them to you guys probably Wednesday is what I'm thinking. Last week we had really bad storms, etc. I couldn't do it because that was a whole long story. But yeah, we were flooding down here in Florida. Can you ask Viva about the Citizens United case and how the Clintons won a case of paying someone off while they're convicting Trump for the same thing?
Citizens United, I can't comment on. I have to refresh my memory on it. If the second half of the question is they won a case paying someone off while they're convicting Trump
Basically
for the same
like Trump did, yeah.
Well, I mean,
Stormy
I'm not
Daniels.
sure if that's referring to the Steele dossier, which is Hillary Clinton and the DNC literally did what they accused Trump of having done with Stormy Daniels.
Really?
Campaign finances
funds
to produce opposition research, which was a lie of a document. It wasn't opposition research, it was disinformation. They used campaign finances to pay off the Steele dossier, which they knew was bullshit. They used their Sussman lawyer, his name was Sussman, to feed it to the FBI for and on behalf of the DNC and Hillary Clinton. He billed them for the meeting. FBI leaks it to Yahoo. Yahoo publishes it so the FBI can say, oh, look, this Steele dossier shows Trump connections to Russia, so we can go get a secret FISA warrant to spy on Carter Page. And they concealed the payment. And it was discovered. And all that Satan herself got was an $8,000 fine, and the DNC got a $33,000 fine. It was literally
Trump changed for them.
They punish who they don't like.
No, but it was literally what they accused Trump of. Trump did not pay for the Stormy Daniels payment with campaign finance, for campaign funds. So that's a material distinction.
Yeah. Technically, it was the lawyer that paid out of his own pocket.
Yeah, and
But it was the lawyer that paid Cohen paid out of his own pocket.
Yeah.
That's a big reason why I'm so mad at Trump. It's like, bro, pay me back my money.
Oh no,
It wasn't campaign funds.
He did it. I mean, it's just anybody who followed that knows what a ridiculous trial that was. But nobody could watch that trial live, so you had to follow that trial only by live tweets.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because, or you had to be in New York in the courtroom watching it.
And it's. I mean, this is how they conceal the injustices so that nobody knows what happened during that case and what was the outcome.
Found guilty on all 34 counts.
He was convicted on all 34 counts, and then you get Michael Cohen come out and
he was like the star witness. Him and Stormy Daniels, two individuals that are pretty much have no credibility.
Michael's a whole L, bro.
Yeah,
How is
he
he even still?
Well,
Man.
he's the worst person among the worst people on earth. He admitted on the stand Okay, you have to understand this. This is how absurd it is, but nobody who wasn't following tweets pretty much knows this. He was on the stand testifying that Trump directed him to pay that money to Stormy Daniels. That money would consisted of $420,000. There was like $50,000 to a tech company called Red Hat. No, not Red Hat. It was a tech company. There was the one whatever to
It was like
Stormy.
120, 130.
130 to Stormy.
And they had to pay him more because it was going to be looked at as income.
Yeah, and there was his bonus in there.
Yep.
He stole $30,000 from that, which was 30 of the 50 that he was supposed to pay to the tech company. So his theory, and the jury bought it, is that Trump orchestrated this payment from which Michael Cohen admitted on the stand he stole $30,000. It makes no sense because it would be like Trump authorizing him to steal his own money, which he didn't do, which is patently evidence that he never authorized the payment in the first place. Michael Cohen did it, stole from it, admitted it on the stand, and he's off scot-free, and he's the star witness. He's a criminal, he's a perjurer, he's a liar, he's a thief. He admitted to all of this on the stand, and Trump is the one that gets convicted for the acts of his criminal lawyer. I mean, the actual criminal who happens to be a lawyer.
Incredible. Incredible.
Hey, man, there's patterns.
Jason Todd, 91, $50. Appreciate that, Jason Todd.
Shout out to you.
Please get Dan. And guys, for you guys that are like sending in these Rumble rants, etc., guys, join CastleClub, man. It's only $35 to join. You know, join in there, man. Become a part of the community, man. We got 6,600 plus y'all ninjas in there strong. We want to get to 10,000.
And you can add memes and gifts.
Yeah, you can add memes and gifts, and you can go ahead and super chat, and it'll be way funnier. So, yeah. Okay, Nav Singh goes, please get Dan Pena on the show. Google him. If you don't know, then you'll remember.
He would be an incredible good guest. He's like a tycoon of sorts, kind of like Grant Cardone, but
oh
yeah,
he always wears the 3-piece suits. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, and he tells
really
everyone they're lazy
guy.
fucks. Yeah. Let's see if he wants to come on, bro. We might be too controversial for him. Just these? Okay.
RL.
What the fuck did Ryan Dawson say about you? Look it up on Twitter, bro.
Greg.
Said a bunch of stuff.
Morel dans la place. Salutations à maître. That means Montreal's in the house. Salutations.
That's from RL.
Oh, okay.
Shout out to RL.
Cool. And that's it? Okay, cool. I think
One
we
more
discussed
just came
everything
in
that
right
wanted.
now.
Okay, we'll read the one that came in. From CastleClub?
Yes.
Okay, what do you say on CastleClub?
Myron. Oh yeah, Super Javi says Myron, no Phoenix, Arizona CastleClub General.
No, I don't think we have one yet. But you're gonna have to talk to Jocasta and DL Saint. They're doing the vetting for generals. You got to have your shit together. You can't just be like, you know. But if you got your stuff together, then yeah, definitely I'll put you in touch with DL Saint.
Yes, must be together.
Yeah, you got to have your shit together. You can't be a brokey and expect to lead guys in our community.
Yeah.
Okay. Viva, thank you so much for coming down to hang out with us, brother. Can you tell the people where they can find you and anything with projects coming up?
Well, I'm going to go live and rant and scream tomorrow throughout the week. Viva Frei on Rumble, YouTube, but we favor Rumble. The Viva Frei on Twitter, and vivabarneslaw.locals.com, where there's a ton of exclusive stuff for supporters, and we have an amazing, massive community on Rumble. On Locals, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and guys, Locals and Rumble are one. So, like, if you rock with Locals, then you're supporting Rumble and you're supporting free speech. And guys, this is, you know, Rumble is constantly getting attacked by governments. I mean, Russia recently shut down Rumble. Brazil has been shut it down.
France.
Or actually, let me rephrase. They basically wrote letters saying, we need you to cancel XYZ creator. Rumble said, pound sand, we're not canceling that creator. We're just going to turn ourselves off in your country. France, Brazil, Russia, recently Russia.
I think China they were
too?
off China. I don't think they've been on China. The irony is just, you know, the countries that are now banning Rumble, or not banning, but causing Rumble to pull.
Yeah.
France never banned them. They just said, you pull RT.
Yeah.
And he said, no, we'll pull from France.
That's how it's been every time. It's like they basically sent a letter saying, we need this creator gone, and Rumble says no, and then they're like, well, whatever, and then Rumble says, you know what, fuck you guys, and they pull out the country.
Yeah.
So, hey, Rumble really stands for free speech. When the British government said, hey, is Russell Brand monetizing on your platform, because they did that to YouTube, and obviously they caved and demonetized immediately, Rumble stood firm and said, fuck off, and they didn't care. So, guys, you got to stand behind the platforms that stand behind your favorite creators, whether it's us, Russell Brand, the Tate brothers, Steven Crowder, Sneeko, etc., Viva Frei. We're all on Rumble because Rumble is the home of free speech, guys. I'm trying to explain this to you guys. Like, YouTube and these other platforms are not free speech, man. So, you got to support free speech.
It's part of the game.
Yeah, bro. There's a reason why every big conservative creator, even guys that aren't banned yet, have a platform on Rumble. Even the Daily Wire are over on Rumble. So that tells you what you need to know. But anyway, guys, go check them out, man. Obviously,
awesome
fantastic legal breakdowns here. Super high IQ conversation. I learned a bunch on this show. I hope you guys did too.
Yeah.
Check them out on Rumble and on YouTube as well. And thank you so much for coming, bro.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming, man.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Good stuff,
Fresh,
bro.
nice to meet you.
Good stuff.
He is Viva
Right.
Frei. We'll catch you guys back here on After Hours in a little bit. Love you guys. Get the Yacht Party tickets. They're there on CastleClub.tv right now. Make sure you become a member. Peace.
Peace.
I ran so far.